On May 10, Israeli armed forces stormed al-Aqsa Mosque in the Haram al-Sharif in Jerusalem, Islam's third holiest site, ahead of a march by Zionist nationalists commemorating Israel's capture of the eastern half of the city in 1967. More than 300 Palestinians were injured in the raid. In retaliation, Hamas, the Islamist militant group that runs Gaza, have fired over 1,000 rockets into Israel so far. This has killed 8 people in Israel till now, including an Indian woman working as a maid. The Israelis have launched several airstrikes on Gaza in response, killing over 130 Palestinians, including 9 children so far. The ongoing violence in Jerusalem is a culmination of tensions building up since the start of Ramzan in mid-April, when Israeli police set up barricades at the Damascus Gate, a main entrance to the occupied Old City, preventing Palestinians from gathering there. It led to clashes. The threatened eviction of dozens of Palestinian families in the East Jerusalem neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah escalated the crisis further in the last week of Ramzan. Clashes erupted on the night of May 7 in Jerusalem between Palestinian protesters and Israeli police, in which hundreds of Palestinians and over a dozen Israeli police personnel were injured. The Israeli authorities had given permission for the Jerusalem Day March, traditionally taken out by far-right Zionists, through the Arab quarter of the Old City. Ahead of the march on May 10, which was rerouted given the tensions, Israeli armed forces stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque with rubber bullets, stun grenades and tear gas to evict Palestinians who Israel said had camped there with stones and Molotov cocktails. Hamas issued an ultimatum to the Israeli troops to stand down from Al-Aqsa. By evening, they launched rockets and Israeli strikes followed. A Jewish settlement agency has issued eviction notices to Palestinian families in Sheikh Jarrah, claiming that their houses sit on land purchased by Jewish agencies in the late 19th century, when historic Palestine was a part of the Ottoman Empire. Arab families have been living in Sheikh Jarrah for generations after 28 Palestinian families first moved there during the creation of the State of Israel in historical Palestine in 1948, when hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were forced out of their homes. In 1956, when East Jerusalem was ruled by Jordan, houses were constructed for these families in Sheikh Jarrah. But Israel captured East Jerusalem from Jordan in 1967, and by the early 1970s, Jewish agencies started demanding the families leave the land. The Israeli Supreme Court hearing was postponed on advice from the government amid the ongoing violence in Jerusalem. The issue remains unresolved and potentially inflammable. Jerusalem has been at the center of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. According to the original 1947 UN partition plan, Jerusalem was proposed to be an international city. But in the First Arab-Israel War of 1948, the Israelis captured the western half of the city and Jordan took the eastern part, including the old city that houses Haram al-Sharif, till Israel captured East Jerusalem in the 1967 Six-Day War and annexed it later. Since its annexation, Israel has expanded settlements in East Jerusalem, which is now home for some 220,000 Jews. Jews born in East Jerusalem are Israeli citizens, while Palestinians in the city are given conditional residency permits. Palestinians in East Jerusalem, unlike other parts of the occupied West Bank, can, however, apply for Israeli citizenship. Very few Palestinians have done so. Israel sees the whole city as its unified eternal capital, a claim endorsed by Donald Trump when he was the US president, but not recognized by most other countries. The Palestinian leadership across the political spectrum have maintained that they would not accept any compromise formula for the future Palestinian state unless East Jerusalem is its capital.